Microphone check. 1, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks, thank you very, very much for listening. Day today is the 9th of November, year of our Lord 2023. Welcome to the inaugural broadcast of the Coping Hour, hosted by yours truly, myself, Nicholas Hinkle. What is this? What do we got going on here? There are going to be timestamps, both on this video and then hopefully on the videos in the future, where you can just kind of pick what topics you care about, and you can kind of be in and out of here as fast as you'd like to be. So I'm going to be doing a little breakdown, a little intro, kind of talking about what the show is, some stuff that you can expect and all that. But if you're just here for like the takes, then like more power to you, soldier. Godspeed, and I'll see you on the front lines soon enough. But before all of that, what is this show? User-generated content. Ladies and gentlemen, I've often found that the best content comes from people who are in the audience, which is going to be you guys. And that's what this email is going to be for. It's going to be on the screen all the time. That's going to be for, I'll show some examples throughout this episode, and you'll kind of see, what I'm going for, the cadence of it, pacing of it. But for the sake of an example, your favorite team just lost in the witching hour on Sunday, your favorite NFL team. It was on a BS roughing the passer call, one of those where it's like, oh, he threw all his body weight on him and like he hit him too hard. Okay. And that put the other team into field goal range. They bang it through the uprights and it knocked you out of like a wild card spot, right? You're pissed about it. Let's chat, bro. You know what I mean? Like send that in. Oh, and then on top of that, you're in med school and you had this residency and like, oh my God, like it just sucks so bad. Like I want this to be therapeutic for both of us. You know what I mean? I'm hoping every Monday and Friday, I don't know, I might be releasing this early on like a Thursday. Maybe I did it on Friday. I don't know. But Monday and Friday is what I'm hoping for. Usually the day I release it is the day I'll be recording it. So just for the sake of getting emails in, time it however you'd like. The closer to the day it releases that you send it, the more likely I am to read it and then subsequently use it, use that for maybe I'll even try to respond to some of you guys. That'd be kind of fun. I'm a sucker for responding to emails, which is crazy because the amount of anxiety I have looking at like unread emails, like ones that are like from actual people that I have to respond to. But I love chatting with people. I love a quick chat. I'm like the king of sending like a 3 to 5 text conversation. I'm the king at, and then like doing like leaving like a thumbs up reaction, like okay, cool, like cool, or like a like an exclamation, like something. I'm the king at those, and I love doing them. Those short bursts, like let's chat for 15 minutes about something real quick, and then like a week later I'll do it again. I love doing that shit so much. To get back on track, I should also add, I know there are going to be some people here in like some sort of a frequently asked questions segment. Maybe one day we can talk about it. I don't think that day is today. Unfortunately, I know some of you guys are going to be here for the Bun and Cardigan show, maybe with some questions. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it here. I bump into a lot of you guys, actually a lot, like way more than you'd think. I like it. Maybe if you have a question or something, maybe I'll answer it. But in a public setting, like on a public forum like this, the Bun and Cardigan show was a show that people really liked. And you don't want to turn that into a messy divorce where people have to choose mom or dad. And this thing that everybody really, really liked suddenly has this sort of sour or bitter taste to remember, to think about. And I think, it's just best to avoid that. What I'll say right now for me is like my journey has sucked a lot. Like my journey has been bullshit. It has sucked. There have been amazing things that have happened. I have gotten to do some like unbelievable things for sure. But in 18 months, it's like, I got like a lot of shit taken away from me like really quick, like immediately. And to be doing this show, to feel like confident enough to be like, I got to get back on the horse and I just got to start doing stuff again. I got to own the space as best as I can. I was watching Saving Private Ryan the other day and Private Jackson in that movie, he's talking about how God made him a fine instrument of warfare, and that's like his higher purpose. Like that's like he's like, this is what I do, right? It's kind of that moment where I'm like, yeah, this is what I fucking do. Like, put me in front of a microphone, put me on camera. You know what I mean? That's always in me. Like that's always been in me. I know that sounds super corny, but like, so just trying to, manifest that, and on top of that, it's like, this is IP that I own. I'm not with another company. I'm not with another guy. Like, no one can fuck me over. You know what I mean? Like, if it happens, it's my fault. And, like, if it's my fault, then it's my fault. And I'd argue some of the shit that happened in the past was my fault, but not all of it. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to give you guys this show. It's going to be a fluid experience. It might change on, like, a weekly basis. It might change on an episode basis, like, graphically and, like, all this stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm excited, though. And I'm excited to kind of hang out with you guys while we do it. Without further ado, I think maybe let's talk about some Pistons. Let's start with one that when I reached out to like a dozen or so of you as like a pre-recording, like, hey, here's the idea, kind of help me get the ball rolling here. This is like the amalgamation of 6, okay? Because this is sneaky dominating headlines right now, especially if you frequent r/Detroit Pistons like I do. It's the whole Jaden Ivey versus Killian Hayes thing. 2 weeks ago, I had no interest in talking about it. I was like, we're a week into the season. Give it 2 months. Guys will get healthy. Monty will figure out who he likes, who he doesn't like. It will resolve itself, okay? Let this play out. It's just beginning of the season stuff, okay? Since then, if I found myself as someone who was a graduate of an institution in West Lafayette, I would be asking questions. Hell, I'd be considering lawyering up. But first, I would be asking questions. Questions like, who on this Detroit Pistons coaching staff hates Jaden Ivey? Who in this Detroit Pistons front office hates Jaden Ivey? Because the fish rots from the head. It's one of you fuckers. I know it is. And I caught myself doing this terrible mental exercise early on where I was like, it's obviously, it has to be something that we're not seeing, okay? He's not practicing hard. He's a shithead in practice. Maybe his teammates are like, damn, like, you're not that fun to be around. Like, you're not, like, your vibes are bad. But that's just antithetical, at the risk of sounding like I'm defending a guy who will never know that I exist. That is antithetical to everything that we've ever heard about him as a character, right? By all accounts, like the accounts of his teammates directly, right? Every interview we've ever heard about people like directly linked to Jaden Ivey, they're like, dude, like the quintessential embodiment of first in, last out. Like the guy who's dribbling with his left hand when his right hand is tied behind his left ankle and he has like a 50-pound neck brace on. You know what I mean? And he's like chained to sandbags. Like that's what he does. That's just his regimen, you know? So it's not that. It's not that. And if you want me to go full Homer conspiracy theory, tinfoil, like I can sound insane right now. If I ever hear that an NBA player is like sick, the odds of them actually being sick. Here's my thing. In the last few years, there was a Detroit Piston who like 2 days before getting traded was out with an illness. Said he had a fucking stomachache. Bullshit. No, he didn't. And I'm not saying, I don't want it. This sounds dangerous. I'm not saying Jaden Ivey's getting traded. He's not getting traded. That's insane. That's insane. He's not getting traded. I mean, eventually he will for like Devin Booker, like for sure. If I had to put the Detroit Pistons all in a tier list, I would put Jaden Ivey in the Devin Booker tier list. Cause like that's where you're going. Like get ready to learn Phoenix, buddy. You know what I mean? With all due respect. But in the meantime, it's kind of bullshit. Even as a guy who like was not on Jaden Ivey's side when we drafted him, I was really upset about not getting Keegan Murray. I didn't want, like, I was honest about it, but I was on his side and I was like, you're here. Like your story is only awesome. Your story is only that of a guy who I know I'm going to root for. Right. And I do. I really honestly do. And I think it's really weird. And people have turned it into this like, oh, so Killian finally starts playing well and now he's being punished for it by the fans because he's not because he's playing ahead of Jaden Ivey. Like, what you give Killian credit for is his responsibility with the basketball as he matures as a player, as his career advances. Like, he is just objectively more secure with the basketball. And I could look into the numbers. Like, I could do this kind of live right now. But eyeball right now, he's not turning it over a ton. He's not doing what he was doing, 2-3 years ago, where he's dribbling into 4 defenders with no plan, right? And at the risk of, I'm not trying to turn this into something that it's not. Like, Cade's done that a lot this year, and it's for different reasons. It's different circumstances. It's not the same issue. It's not the same thing. But, like, how Cade's done it a lot this year? That's what Killian did for, like, 3 years, right? And he doesn't do that as much anymore. Where he's a pain in the ass is when he tries to snake charm fucking Kevin Durant on the baseline, and KD swats him without even jumping. Like, it's either that or he does the thing, and hey, man, he rips the net on these. Like, these shots go in. But those little, like, rainbows at the top of the stripe or from the elbow, they just make you hold your breath sometimes. Every time he goes up with that ball, you just hold your breath. But he's a good defender. He's always been a good defender. And he makes a lot of right plays with the basketball. Right now, is that all Detroit is looking for? I guess so. For what it's worth, despite how, like, weird this season has been for Detroit so far, like, winning games that you're kind of like, oh, like, whoa, that Charlotte game early this season, I was convinced we were going to look back at that game in, like, 3 months and be like, that's when it started. Like, that's when this season really started. That's when we knew it was going to be special. Because I got to tell you, anytime that Detroit beats the Hornets, I get up for it. Like, I get real juice when that happens. Because for the last decade plus, bro, like, we don't beat Charlotte. It hasn't happened. Like, the Andre Drummond Pistons, like, we did not beat the Hornets ever. I don't know if there are any Charlotte fans that, like, were conscious of the fact that you had our number for so long. But it's not the Andre Drummond Pistons. It's the Jalen Duren Pistons. I can't believe how good a lot of things in that game felt. Like, even Isaiah Stewart, that was the weirdest part. Was late in that game, Isaiah Stewart, we're going to him like he's a number 1 scoring option. We're handing him the ball in like 4 or 5 straight possessions. He knocks down, I think, a pair of threes. He has this one sequence where it turns into a complete open lane to the basket. He, like, was moving so fast that he almost smoked the layup on his way there. But the Pistons, just everyone came up huge on both ends, right? There are so many positive things that I could think to talk about right now and that I know that people kind of want to hear, right? Because everything has just been really shitty and doom and gloom. And we'll do that eventually. But I got one more Killian Hayes thing, and this is it. And I swear to God, this is it. Like, I really want, the only reason I'm doing kind of back-to-back Killian things is because this is like, I'm done talking about this. I'm done talking about this fucking guy. He, like, even when he doesn't do anything wrong, he's not in my bad graces right now. I don't really have a problem with him, especially to the extent that other people do, despite maybe how I've made it sound. But that being said, I'm over this, right? Like, let's get on the express lane. I've been looking for the exit ramp for like 150 miles, right? Like, in the dark, my brights are on. Like, I can't find it. I'm just trying to get home. But I got one more thing. Killian Hayes, is he not just Jeff Okuda? Lions fans? Did we not just do this with Jeff Okuda? Dude, he gets drafted 3rd in whatever draft class it was with him, right? The Lions were in a really weird spot. And to take a corner 3rd in any draft, post 2000 and, I don't know, 15, like, insane. Insane. Especially when you consider, like, with all due respect, like, he wasn't this jack of all trades Swiss Army knife nickel, like, Brian Branch, I don't know. So to take him 3rd, it sets this precedent and this example. Like, how is he supposed to live up to whatever this expectation is? You know what I mean? Like, where even is that bar? It's probably really high. A corner 3rd overall in the NFL, wild. It's wild. I only use that as an example because whether people like to remember it or not, Killian Hayes was talked about by a few esteemed members of the media and publications as not only the best point guard in the draft above LaMelo, but the best player above LaMelo, Anthony Edwards, and even James Wiseman, which at the time was a hot take. If you revisited that now, people would say Wiseman probably, right? People really don't like James Wiseman. I don't know what they would say. The hive for Killian Hayes is greater than sign hive for James Wiseman. So just on like fan strength alone, I think people would take Killian. I digress. The Lions end up shipping Jeff Okudah to Atlanta for like a compensatory 5th-round pick because for whatever reason, right, it just didn't work with Jeff Okudah. Maybe he had his moments here and there. He had that pick 6 against Justin Fields when it was like, little one picks big one. That commentator line, it was a good line. Probably his best play as a Lion. That's the first one that comes to mind. Maybe he had one or two more. But he goes down to Atlanta, just needed a change of scenery, man. That's what everybody was saying for the longest time with him. Is like, I just don't think it's going to work here. There's just an expectation that's there for him that, whether you like to admit it or not, Jeff Okudah played some pretty convincingly good games for the Falcons this year. Battled some injuries early on, I think, at the beginning of the season. Played some good games for the Falcons. People have been making jokes for years, man. Don't give Killian Hayes to the Spurs. Don't do it. And the closer we get to that being a reality, the closer I am to like, don't. Like, actually, please don't do that. Now that I was thinking it was kind of over for Pop, and now I'm kind of like, I think he's got some more in the tank. Please don't give him Killian Hayes. But then you're also kind of like, is he going to get a second contract? Is he? Like, you think so? Hamidou Diallo not on an NBA roster. Unless maybe I missed the notification. Hamidou Diallo, pretty sure he's not on an NBA roster. If he is, took him a long time. He's not on a roster. Like, he'll be on one by the end of the year, though. Like, 100%. Again, if he's not already on one, which I'm pretty sure he's not. He got screwed, though, man, because he was just kind of a victim of circumstance with, like, he was always going to be one of those, you know, Phoenix needs a guy on the margins for, like, $1.2 million or something. Go get Hamidou Diallo for a year. But the Bradley Beal thing held shit up. The Harden thing, the Dame thing, like he just got screwed by the cycle of everything. He'll be on one by the end of the year, though. You know what? Why don't we go back to back Pistons in the name of giving you my best fastball in episode 1? We might as well lean heavy on the Pistons, right? And because honestly, what we're about to do goes perfectly in line with when we talk about user-generated content and the email that's going to be on the screen at all times. What I'm about to read is exactly what I'm going for. Okay, it's, you know, anything in this sort of paradigm is great. So thank you to my buddy Julian for sending this in. Hey Nick, excited for the new show and to hear some new Pistons takes. This doesn't seem to be a popular opinion, but I'm starting to wonder. The Pistons have not won more than 25 games with Troy Weaver as their general manager. Does another 20-win season put him on the hot seat? How many years is a restoration meant to take? That last question is a perfect question, and we're going to get to that in just a second. I have to be that guy. The Pistons have not won more than 25 games with Troy Weaver as their GM. They have not won 25 games with Troy Weaver as their GM. They've only ever won 23. That's their most, right? So how long does a restoration take? How many owners and GMs have come out over the last, couple of dozen years and talked about like how terrifying it can be to undergo that quote unquote traditional rebuild? Because it can take like 10 plus years. You hire one wrong guy, it'll set you back like 2 to 3 years. That's like Mark Cuban was on the Pat Bev podcast a month ago, I don't know how long ago it was, talking about the hardest thing about my job is having to hire a head coach. It's like the scariest thing because you're putting so much responsibility, so much control in their hands. And, we talk about the Lions, we talk about Dan Campbell and how good of a job he's done. It's hard to understand if you haven't been a Lions fan and haven't physically been there to really understand it. Like when we talk about him pulling us from the fucking depths, like he's doing it. Like that's what he's doing. And we really hit rock bottom. We really got there because we hired one wrong guy, Matt Patricia, right? And you can argue, we can do the whole, well, Bob Quinn, blah, 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 bullshit. I'm not here to talk about that. Fucking Matt Patricia, right? That's ultimately why we had the picture of Martha sitting up there with her hands in her, her head in her hands on fucking Thanksgiving, fired their asses like the next day because she was embarrassed, right? And that's why Martha is like, like, holy smokes. I digress. Anyways, undergoing that rebuild is hard. And luckily, it doesn't really seem like the Pistons have hired the wrong guy. Like Tom Gores, when he finally bit that bullet and was like, we need to do this the right way, I believe that he hired the right guy. I think most people still do. I know the vocal majority out there, vocal minority, however I would need to phrase this to make it make sense for my point. Like, if you just read what's on the internet, people really don't like Troy Weaver. But I find that if you just talk to normal people, they're like, yeah, I mean, this shit sucks, but it takes time. Because what do we know about him? He drafts really, really well. He drafts really, really well. Like Sadiq Bey, yeah, maybe it didn't work here. That's an NBA player, dude. That's an NBA player. Isaiah Stewart, he just got paid. That's an NBA player. Whether he's a 4, whether he's a 5, like, that's an NBA player for sure. Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham. Like, we're talking about a guy who, if he played that full season, like, he was Rookie of the Year. Like, there's a real chance he was Rookie of the Year I don't know, man. I don't know if he would. Like, it was... but he was so good. And, if he didn't have that injury, like, if he doesn't lose an entire season last year, like, who knows where he is right now? And he looks really good right now. We'd like to see a little bit more ball security, but, stop just, like, throwing shit around, kid. Be a little bit more selfish sometimes. Jaden Ivey, like, yeah, he's in, like, prison right now, like, proverbial prison. We all like where that's going. For all intents and purposes, dude, like, Jalen Duren, like, is a world eater. You know what I mean? Asar Thompson, when you talk about guys who were, it was it Draymond that had the quote that he was like, dude, him and his brother were, like, built, like, chiseled to play in the NBA. Like, literally, though. Like, these two dudes were, like, they were born for this shit, him and his brother. They look amazing. And they're, like, 12. And Jalen Duren is actually 19. Like, actually, no, Jason Tatum meme is actually only 19. And it's insane. And, like, I didn't love, by the way, this has nothing to do with anything, watching Drew Eubanks put hands on Jalen Duren and, like, kind of work his shit in the post. Drew Eubanks has come a long way from his San Antonio days of, like, catching the ball 13 feet from the basket with, like, 16 on the clock and being like, I don't have shit else going on, and just, like, putting it up, and it would rim out every single time. He's come a long way from that because now he's, like, punking Jalen Duren. I like, turned the game off. I was sick to my stomach. I was on my hands and knees crying. What the fuck is that? How much longer is it going to take? Does a 20-win season, like, is that a nail in the coffin? It wouldn't be a good look. It wouldn't be a good look. It doesn't get him fired if they win 25 games. Like, even if they set a new record and win 25 games, like, it's still not a great look. But there's going to be context to that, though. The only reason this team wins 25 games is if, like, multiple people are like, if we have, like, a Monte Morris, Bogdanovich, and one other injury consistently throughout, like, to that extent the whole season, like, yeah, the team's not going to win a lot of games. But like any team, right, if they're healthy, they'll win games. So, like, what am I really saying? You're right. No, 25 wins, I think people would justifiably be like, what the fuck? Like, something's got to... Because we also keep getting told every summer it's next summer that we're going to spend money. Whether people want to fucking admit this or not, we have been told this, like, routinely, at least twice, that next summer is when we're going to spend money. And then next summer comes around and they're like, it's just free agency class. It's just actually not, the market's not that interesting. It's just about trades now anyways. It's not really about getting free agents because people just sign these deals and they don't let themselves get to free agency. We're going to be fine, okay? We're going to be fine. Pistons are going to be fine. We're on the right track. I'm getting upset. This is how back I am, is I'm getting, like, real life emotional and real life upset because I'm tired of this team fucking stinking. We stink. I toyed around with a few segment ideas where it was like online guy of the week or like 2 online of the week. I had a Reddit guy of the week. I still might circle back to that one because the guy that I have to award it to is just, like, chronically, like posting the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. Because he's being for real. It's funny ironically. This guy is insane, but I love him unconditionally for it. But I don't want to seem like I'm blasting him, so I'm just going to move on. And then my infatuation with the plain woman kind of led me to that motherfucker is not real of the week or something like that, like the not real motherfucker of the week, something adjacent. And that's what led me to this. A storyline that I was not expecting really at all this season. Like a little bit, but not this early. Is Marcus Sasser the best rookie that's not named Victor Wembanyama? I'm being so for real. Because even when I watch him or Asar, to be honest, because Asar has this compulsory need to make the right play all the time. Like, all the time. His ability to rebound a basketball, like, as an 18-year-old kid, like, as a kid, is insane. I referenced it earlier, the quote about him being physically built to play basketball. There's a world where we look back in a redraft, not even that far in the future, like sneaky maybe by the end of the year, where we will look back in a redraft and him and his brother go 2-3. Like, if we can be real, okay, Victor looks like it might be real, so okay, he's probably always going to go number 1 in a redraft. But Asar and Amen, like 2 and 3 in some order by the end of the season, it could happen. It could really happen. Or like Marcus Sasser, with all due respect, is not going all the way up to number 2. But he fucking scores, dude, like all the time. Like all the time. As of this recording, he's shooting 50% on threes. He's shot 34 of them. Like, he's shooting the ball. You know what I mean? He hasn't like put up 8. And I'm like, oh, he's 50% from 3. Like, he's put up 34. Okay? He's shooting 50%. I'm not a huge true shooting percentage guy, like 62.1. Okay? This is not a numbers podcast. This is not a pro numbers podcast. If you ever find yourself in a position where you're emailing into the show or you're a guest on the show, do not talk about numbers. I don't give a shit. Baseball, talking about like VORP. What the fuck? Gross. Shut up. I'm just like, damn, he just drove left and he like went glass. Like, that was crazy. And you're like, oh, the Amazon angle, the trajectory. Shut up. Shut up. Marcus Sasser, though. Anyways, he's crazy. Early on in like preseason and stuff, when I would watch him, I was like, he physically shoots the ball too fast, and that's why I don't like him. Not that I didn't like him, because he was amazing, but like, he was always so anxious to shoot the ball, and I was like, that's annoying to me as like a guy watching a rookie. I'm like, he's not ready for it. He's not ready for the bright lights. He's just too nervous. That motherfucker's not nervous. He's been great, but it also has kind of put up this question for people where they're like, watching Marcus Sasser. First of all, does he need to start is the first question that people are asking. I don't think so. I think Pistons fans are like so desperate and starved for a guy who can score. Even though we like sneaky have that on the team. Like, we have that at home already. Like Alec Burks, Bogdanovich. But I know what you mean, though. Like, you want, like, a kid, you know? Like, you want a guy. And by the way, we have that with Cade. We might have that with Ivy. But what we also don't have, and this is why the Pistons are going to lose games. They're going to lose so many games because of this, or until we get this resolved. A guy who can get to the line. Like, someone's going to have to start doing it. Austin Reeves admitted that, like, he started to flop. Like, he had to start doing it because he was like, I have to get a fucking whistle. I'm going to have to start doing something. He admitted it on Ryan Russillo's podcast. Like, he's talked about this. Someone on this team's going to have to do it. I know these are men of integrity. I know they are. They're coached by Monty fucking Williams, okay? These are men of integrity. They're on this team, okay? Part of, like, this program, this culture. Like, these are good guys. They don't want to flop. But I'm sorry, someone's going to have to do it. And if I have to pick for them, this is where you wish you had, like, Frank Jackson on the team, because he would have been great at this. Does it have to be Isaiah Livers? Is he going to have to take one for the team? He could shoot. You know what I mean? Like, he can get to the line. He's got a big body. He's got a big frame. He's like 6'8". Isn't he like 230? He's huge. Maybe he's not that big, like 215. 6'8", 215, though, isn't that big. Well, you're vertically big, but you're not horizontally big. So Isaiah Liver's horizontally big. But he could get to the line. Someone's going to have to start flopping. I don't know what's going to be. Like, you lose that Milwaukee game because Milwaukee shoots 60 more free throws than you. But such is life against Milwaukee. Like, that's just, especially now more than ever, that's just going to happen. But the last 10 years that Milwaukee has been starting to get good, and then when they finally got good, that's always been a problem against them, is they've always had guys who can get to the line. And then, that back and forth volley of we have Ersan Ilyasova, and then like they have Ersan Ilyasova, and then so he's just taking charges left and right from like Greg Monroe, Andre Drummond, and then like Giannis and like all this. That guy, Ersan Ilyasova, had to have taken more charges than anybody in the history of the NBA. Holy smokes! But Asar Thompson, Marcus Sasser, they're both making all rookie teams. Troy Weaver has done it again. We talk about him being an amazing guy that like he can draft really, really well. He nailed it with these guys. Asar Thompson and Marcus Sasser, I'm in love, honestly.
Computers now have primary control.
Beautiful.
Primary control.
Beautiful.
Primary control.
Beautiful.
Primary control.
Beautiful.